The janitor mopping the floor at the Metropolitan Medical Summit wasn't supposed to know what anaphylaxis looked like. But when Natasha Winters, CEO of a billion-dollar pharmaceutical empire, collapsed at table 7, gasping for air with her lips turning blue, Michael Reynolds didn't hesitate. He dropped his mop. He ran, and in front of 200 of the country's top doctors, he did the one thing a janitor is never supposed to do. He practiced medicine. Within 90 seconds, he'd located her EpiPen, administered the injection, and started rescue breathing. By the time security pulled him off her, she was alive. He was fired. And the room full of doctors, the same people who'd stripped him of his medical license 3 years ago, finally remembered his name. "When will you be a doctor again, Dad?" his 6-year-old son had asked him that morning. Michael hadn't answered. He didn't think he'd ever get the chance. What happens when the man who lost everything risks it all one more time? The day started the way most days did for Michael Reynolds. 6:15 a.m. The alarm on his phone, not the clock radio he used to have, the one that had been sold, along with most of their furniture, when the bills piled up. Kitchen in a 1-bedroom apartment on the south side of the city. 3rd floor of a building where the elevator worked maybe 3 days out of 7. Kraft peanut butter spread thin on white bread because the jar was running low, and payday wasn't until Friday. The generic grape jelly from Save-A-Lot. 2 sandwiches. One for now, one for Ethan's lunch. Ethan sat at the small Formica table they'd gotten from Goodwill, swinging his legs because his feet didn't quite reach the floor yet. Dinosaur pajamas, hand-me-downs from a neighbor's kid. Too big in the sleeves, but Ethan didn't care. He was humming something he'd learned at school, the alphabet song, but with random notes added, the way 6-year-olds do. "Dad, can I bring this for show and tell?" Michael turned from the counter, butter knife in hand. Ethan was holding the stethoscope, the old Littman Cardiology 4, navy blue tubing, slightly worn on the earpieces from years of use. Thousands of patients, thousands of heartbeats, thousands of diagnoses. The bell was scratched on one side from the time Michael had dropped it in the parking lot outside the ER during a trauma call. He'd kept meaning to replace it. Never did. Now he was glad. It felt like an old friend. Michael had kept it in a shoebox in the closet, buried under old tax returns and discharge papers from St. Catherine's Hospital that he couldn't bring himself to throw away. Separation documents, final paycheck stub, a letter from the medical board with the words, "License revocation," in bold at the top. "Where'd you find that, buddy?" "In your closet. I was looking for my dinosaur book, the one with the T-Rex." Ethan held the stethoscope up to his chest, like doctors do on TV, the bell resting over his heart. "Can I bring it? Miss Clara said we can bring something special to us." Michael's throat tightened. He set down the knife, dried his hands on a dish towel, also from Goodwill, faded blue with a pattern of sunflowers that had probably been bright yellow once. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not? You don't use it anymore." Simple question, devastating answer. "I don't need it for my job." Ethan tilted his head, the way kids do when they're working something out, when the world doesn't quite make sense yet, but they're trying. "But you used to be a doctor, right? Miss Clara said her dad's a dentist and he has tools, lots of them. She showed us a picture. Don't doctors have tools?" Michael knelt down. Eye level. The stethoscope hung from Ethan's small hand, the bell resting against the scuffed linoleum floor. "I was a doctor, a long time ago." 3 years isn't that long, Ethan said, with the matter-of-fact certainty of a child. "That's only 3 birthdays. 3 birthdays, 3 Christmases, 1,095 days of mopping floors and emptying trash cans and pretending he was someone else. When will you be a doctor again? There it was. The question Ethan asked at least once a week, sometimes during breakfast, sometimes before bed, when Michael was tucking him in and Ethan was fighting sleep. Sometimes out of nowhere while they walked to the bus stop on Maple Street, past the bodega with the faded awning and the fire hydrant someone had painted to look like a superhero. Michael never had a good answer. "I don't know, buddy, but you're really good at it. Miss Clara said her friend went to the hospital, and the doctors there weren't as nice as you were. She said you always smiled at people." He had. Michael remembered, smiling even when he was exhausted, smiling when he was giving bad news because sometimes a kind face was all you could offer, smiling at kids like Ethan who came in scared, with broken arms or split chins, or fevers that wouldn't break. "Miss Clara talks a lot," Michael said softly. "She said you saved people. Lots of people. That was my job. Why isn't it your job now?" "Because I made a mistake. Because the hospital needed someone to blame. Because the world decided I'm not worth a second chance. It's complicated." "What does complicated mean?" "It means grown-up stuff that's hard to explain." Ethan frowned, not satisfied, never satisfied with non-answers. Smart kid, too smart sometimes. "Can I still bring it?" "I'll be really careful." "I promise." Michael reached out, took the stethoscope gently. The rubber tubing was cool in his palm. He remembered the weight of it around his neck, the way it felt to press the bell against someone's chest and hear their heart, the rhythm of life, the sound that meant they were still here, still fighting. "How about we put this back? It's not a toy." Ethan's face fell. Michael saw it, the disappointment, the confusion. Why did Dad keep something he never used? Why did it matter if it wasn't important anymore? "Okay," Ethan said quietly. Michael stood, walked to the bedroom. The shoebox was on the top shelf of the closet, next to a box of winter clothes they couldn't fit into the tiny bedroom dresser. He stared at the stethoscope for a long moment, felt the weight of it, the memory of who he used to be. He almost put it back in the shoebox. Then he didn't. He slipped it into his work bag, navy blue canvas, zipper broken on one side, a patch on the bottom where the fabric had torn. He didn't know why he was bringing it. It wasn't like he could use it. It wasn't like anyone at the convention center would care that he owned one. But maybe some part of him wasn't ready to let go completely. Metropolitan Medical Convention Center, Building C, Floor 2. That's where Michael dropped Ethan every morning at 7:30. Childcare program for employees' kids, run by the convention center as a benefit. Michael paid $20 a week, sliding scale based on income. Without it, he couldn't work. Without work, they couldn't eat. Miss Clara ran the program. Sweet woman, mid-50s, gray hair in a bun, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She wore cardigans even in summer. Today's was lavender. She knew Michael was a janitor. She didn't know anything else, and Michael preferred it that way. "Morning, Mr. Reynolds," she said, as Ethan ran off to join the other kids. There were 8 this morning, 2 building in blocks, 3 at the art table, 1 reading in the book corner. Ethan headed straight for the dinosaur toys. "Morning, Miss Clara." "He was talking about you yesterday," she said. "Told all the other kids his dad used to save people." Michael's stomach tightened. Kids have big imaginations. He seemed pretty certain. She smiled. "He's a sweet boy. You've done a good job with him." "I'm trying. That's all any of us can do." She glanced at the clock on the wall. "You'd better get to work. Mr. Patterson doesn't like when people clock in late." Patterson, the facilities manager, 5'6", compensating with a loud voice and a tendency to write people up for infractions like didn't refill soap dispenser to regulation level or cartwheels squeaked during quiet hours. "Thanks, Miss Clara." Michael's shift started at 8. He clocked in at 7:47. Navy blue uniform, pants, and a button-up shirt with his name badge pinned to the chest. Mike R. Not Michael. Not Dr. Reynolds. Just Mike. Generic. Forgettable. The janitorial supply room was in the basement. Cinder block walls painted industrial beige. Metal shelving units stocked with cleaning supplies. Pine Sol, Windex, bleach, trash bags, mop heads, rubber gloves. Michael loaded his cart. Mop and bucket, spray bottles, rags. The cart had a squeaky wheel. He'd mentioned it to Patterson twice. Patterson said they'd order a new one. That was 4 months ago. The medical summit had started yesterday. 3-day conference, 800 attendees according to the registration count. Keynote speakers, breakout sessions, pharmaceutical reps in the exhibit hall showing off new drugs and devices with brand names Michael didn't recognize anymore. New antibiotics, new cardiac medications, new imaging technologies. 3 years ago, he would have been attending this conference, taking notes, asking questions, networking with colleagues. Now he was emptying their trash. Michael started on the main floor. The grand hall was empty this early. Chairs arranged in rows. Stage at the front with a podium and a massive screen. The carpet was that commercial kind, gray with flecks of blue, designed to hide stains. It was already littered with discarded name tag backings, coffee cup sleeves, crumpled napkins. He worked methodically. Trash can by trash can. Wipe down surfaces. Check the bathrooms. Refill paper towels. Make sure the soap dispensers were full, because if someone complained, Patterson would write him up. At 8:30, early arrivals started filtering in. Doctors, researchers, pharmaceutical executives. You could tell who was who by the clothes. Doctors. Business casual, comfortable shoes, lanyards with hospital names. Researchers. Slightly rumpled, cheaper suits, often carrying laptops. Executives. Tailored suits, expensive watches, confident walks. Michael kept his head down, pushed his cart, stayed invisible. The trick to being a janitor was to not exist. Move through spaces like air. Don't make eye contact. Don't engage in conversation unless directly addressed. Be useful, but unseen. Michael had gotten good at it. At 9:15, he was mopping near the registration desk when he heard a voice he knew. A voice that made his hands freeze on the mop handle, made his heart rate spike the way it used to when a trauma patient came through the ER doors. Reynolds, still here, I see. He looked up. Dr. Richard Blackwell, 56. Silver hair combed back with just enough product to look natural but expensive. Charcoal suit, definitely custom, probably Italian. Shoes polished to a mirror shine. Medical director of credentialing at St. Catherine's Hospital. The man who'd led the investigation 3 years ago. The man who'd sat across from Michael in a conference room and said, "The evidence suggests gross negligence on your part, Dr. Reynolds. I'm recommending immediate license suspension." The man who'd made sure Michael's name was attached to the word malpractice in every report, every document, every whispered conversation in hospital hallways. Michael's hands tightened on the mop handle. Dr. Blackwell. I have to say, I'm surprised. Blackwell's tone was light, conversational, like they were old friends catching up over coffee instead of doctor and janitor, destroyer and destroyed. I thought you'd have moved on by now, found something more suitable. This is suitable, is it? Blackwell looked around. Mopping floors, emptying trash. Quite a fall from the ER, wouldn't you say? Michael didn't answer. His jaw was clenched so tight it hurt. I suppose it is. Blackwell lifted his coffee cup, a Starbucks venti, probably a $5 latte, took a sip. Then, as if by accident, as if his hand just slipped, he tilted it too far. Hot coffee splashed onto the floor, onto Michael's shoes, cheap sneakers from Payless, already worn at the toes. Blackwell glanced down. Oops. He looked at Michael, smiled. Not warmly. Could you get that? I believe that's what you do now, isn't it? Michael didn't move. Couldn't. His hands were shaking. not from fear, but from rage. From the memory of sitting in that conference room while Blackwell recited a list of failures that weren't failures, errors that weren't errors, negligence that was actually equipment malfunction covered up by administration. From the memory of his wife, Jennifer, leaving, taking her suitcases, saying, "I can't do this anymore, Michael. I can't watch you destroy yourself, and I can't let you destroy us." From the memory of Ethan asking, "Where's Mommy going?" and Michael not having an answer. "Of course," Michael said quietly. His voice was steady. He was proud of that. "Right away, Dr. Blackwell." He knelt, grabbed his mop, soaked up the coffee. It was still hot. Steam rose from the floor. The smell was strong. French roast, probably. Something expensive. Blackwell stood there, watching. 2 other doctors approached, colleagues of Blackwell's, judging by the way they greeted him. Dr. Martin Foster, chief of cardiology at some hospital in Boston. Dr. Ellen Carmichael, head of the credentialing board for the Regional Medical Association. They glanced at Michael on the floor. Carmichael wrinkled her nose slightly, as if the sight of someone cleaning was distasteful. "Richard, good to see you," Foster said. "Likewise. Ready for your presentation this afternoon?" "As ready as I'll ever be. You know how it is. Death by PowerPoint." They laughed. Professional laughter. The kind that doesn't require humor, just social obligation. Blackwell gestured vaguely at Michael. "Some people just can't handle the pressure of real medicine," he said, loud enough for Michael to hear, loud enough for the others to hear. "Better to find out early than let them hurt more patients." Foster nodded sagely. "Unfortunate, but true. The profession requires a certain fortitude." "Indeed," Blackwell said. "Not everyone has it." Michael finished cleaning, squeezed the mop into the bucket. The water was dark brown now, tinted with coffee. He stood, pushed his cart away without a word, without looking at them. But he heard Carmichael say, "Was that really necessary, Richard?" And Blackwell's reply, "He needs to understand his place." Michael's hands didn't stop shaking until he reached the stairwell. He stood there, alone, breathing hard. His reflection stared back from a window. A man in a cheap uniform, holding a mop, invisible to everyone who mattered. Ethan's voice echoed in his head. "When will you be a doctor again, Dad?" Never, Michael thought, because men like Blackwell make sure of it. By 10 a.m., the main hall was full. 200 doctors filling the seats. Keynote presentation starting. Dr. Sarah Chen was speaking. Chief Medical Officer at Winters Pharmaceuticals. Michael could see her on the screen from his position in the hallway. 52, sharp suit, confident posture. Slides about innovations in emergency drug delivery systems. EpiPens with better auto-injection mechanisms, faster-acting antihistamines, portable defibrillators with AI-guided protocols. Michael had trained under her during his residency at Johns Hopkins, 15 years ago. She'd been the best teacher he'd ever had. Sharp, fair, demanding but never cruel. She'd written his recommendation letter for the fellowship. She'd told him, "You have a gift, Michael. Not just the knowledge. Anyone can memorize protocols. You have instinct. That's rare." She hadn't spoken to him since the hearing. Not a call, not an email. Not even an acknowledgement when he'd sent her a letter, trying to explain what had happened, asking for help, for someone to vouch for his character. Nothing. Michael wasn't in the hall for the presentation. Janitors weren't allowed in during sessions unless there was a specific cleaning emergency. He was in the hallway outside, emptying trash from the breakout rooms, but he could hear her voice through the closed double doors, confident, clear, talking about saving lives with better technology. He paused outside the doors, listened, remembered sitting in lecture halls like this, taking notes, asking questions, believing he was going to make a difference. "Excuse me." "Sir?" Michael turned. A young woman, late 20s, resident badge clipped to her white coat. Dr. Amy Porter, according to the name. She was carrying a plastic tray of medical supplies, syringes still in sterile packaging, rolls of gauze, alcohol wipes, small vials of medication. The kind of tray residents carried when restocking supply carts. She'd just tripped on the edge of the carpet where it met the tile floor. The tray tilted, supplies scattered everywhere, clattering across the hallway floor. "Damn it," she muttered, kneeling down. A syringe rolled toward Michael's cart. Michael set down his trash bag, knelt beside her, started picking things up. "You don't have to," she started. But Michael was already sorting, automatically, without thinking. Syringes by gauge, 18 gauge for drawing blood, or IV starts in larger veins, 20 gauge for standard IV use, 22 gauge for smaller veins, or pediatric patients. Bandages by size, 2-inch for small wounds, 4-inch for larger coverage. Medications alphabetically, atropine for cardiac emergencies, epinephrine for anaphylaxis and cardiac arrest, lidocaine for arrhythmias and local anesthesia. His hands moved with muscle memory, organized, efficient, the way he'd done it thousands of times in the ER. Dr. Porter stared. "How did you?" Michael handed her the organized tray, everything in its place, exactly how a supply cart would be arranged. Just seemed like the right order. "That's exactly how we organize in the ER." She looked at him. Really looked. Her eyes narrowed slightly, the way a doctor's do when they're trying to diagnose something. Have you worked in medicine before?" Michael stood. "I've seen it done. Worked in hospitals for a while. You pick things up." "No, I mean," she paused. "You sorted that faster than I could have. That's not just seeing it done. That's training. Muscle memory, I guess." Michael picked up his trash bag. "Have a good day, Dr. Porter." He started to walk away. "Wait," she called. "What's your name?" "Mike." "Just Mike?" "That's what's on my badge." He walked away before she could ask anything else, but he felt her eyes on his back, watching him, wondering. And at the end of the hallway, near the stairwell, Dr. Sarah Chen was standing. She'd stepped out during a break in her presentation, coffee in hand. She'd seen the whole thing. Their eyes met across the distance, 30 feet. A gulf of 3 years and 1,000 unspoken words. Chen's expression shifted. Surprise first, recognition dawning in her eyes as she realized who the janitor was. Then something else. Something harder to read. Guilt, maybe. Or regret. Michael looked away first, turned toward the stairwell, disappeared into the concrete and fluorescent lighting of the service areas where janitors belonged. But Chen's face stayed with him, the way she'd looked at him, like she was seeing a ghost. Maybe he was. Lunch break, 11:30. Michael sat in the employee locker room in the basement, a space with metal lockers, 2 benches, a small table, and a vending machine that only worked half the time. The fluorescent lights buzzed. One flickered constantly. Patterson had been saying he'd get it fixed for 6 months. Michael ate a sandwich he'd packed, turkey and cheese, white bread. No lettuce or tomato, because those cost extra and went bad too fast. Same thing every day. Cheaper than the cafeteria, where a sandwich cost $8, nearly an hour of his wage. His locker was open. Number 47. The stethoscope was inside, coiled on the top shelf next to his spare uniform shirt. He stared at it while he chewed. Why had he brought it? He didn't know. Or maybe he did, and he wasn't ready to admit it. Maybe some part of him, the part that still woke up at night thinking he heard code blue alarms, the part that still mentally triaged strangers when he saw them limping or coughing, wasn't ready to completely let go. His phone buzzed. Text from Miss Clara. Ethan's asking if you can visit during break. Says he wants to show you something. He drew a picture. Michael checked the time. He had 20 minutes left on his 30-minute lunch. He texted back, "On my way." Building C, floor 2. The childcare room was bright. Colorful posters on the walls, ABCs with animals, a number chart, a map of the United States with cartoon landmarks, construction paper art taped to a bulletin board, kid-sized tables and chairs, a reading nook with beanbags, a bin of toys in the corner. Ethan ran over when Michael walked in, holding a piece of construction paper. His hands were covered in blue crayon. "Dad, look! I drew you." The drawing showed a stick figure in blue, Michael's uniform. The figure was holding a long stick, probably the mop. Next to the stick figure was a smaller one with yellow crayon hair. Ethan. And between them, Ethan had drawn something that looked like a stethoscope, colored carefully with blue crayon to match the one Michael owned. "That's really good, buddy. Miss Clara said I could draw what makes me happy." Ethan looked up with those wide, trusting eyes, brown like his mother's. "You make me happy. And this," he pointed at the stethoscope in the drawing, "because it's important to you." Michael's chest ached. How did kids know? How did they see through the walls adults built? It was, a long time ago. But you still have it. I saw it in the closet. So it's still important. Simple logic, devastating accuracy. I guess so. Are you happy now, Dad? The question hit harder than it should have, harder than Blackwell's coffee spill, harder than Chen's guilty expression. Michael knelt down, eye level again. "I'm happy when I'm with you. But are you happy when you're cleaning?" Honest kid. Too honest. Ethan watched him, waiting for an answer. Michael didn't have one. Couldn't lie. Couldn't tell the truth. So he just said, "It's a job. It pays for our apartment and your school and food. But do you like it?" "It's because I don't think you do. You always look sad when you leave in the morning." 6 years old, and he saw everything. Michael pulled him into a hug. "I'm okay, buddy, I promise." Ethan hugged back, small arms around his neck. "I think you should be a doctor again. You'd be really good." "It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because I killed someone. Because the hospital decided I was expendable. Because the medical board revoked my license, and no amount of appeals or evidence or desperation could change their minds. Because your mother left, and I don't blame her, and I'm barely holding on. And if I let myself want something I can't have, I'll break completely. Because sometimes things don't work out the way we want." Ethan pulled back, looked at him with those devastating eyes. "But you didn't stop being good at it, right? You didn't forget how?" "No, I didn't forget." "Then you should try again." If only it were that easy. If only the world worked on 6-year-old logic. Miss Clara called Ethan back for snack time. Apple slices and crackers laid out on a table. Ethan ran off. Michael stood, ruffled his son's hair, watched him go. In the hallway, he checked his phone. 12:10. Shift resumed at 12:15. He needed to get back. He headed toward the stairwell, but stopped when he heard voices around the corner. Male. Low. Trying to be quiet, but not quiet enough. Michael pressed himself against the wall. Listened. Maintenance records from St. Catherine's. If anyone finds out the defibrillator had been malfunctioning for weeks before the Hartley incident, Blackwell's voice. They won't. The records are buried. It wiped the backup logs. The manufacturer settled out of court with a non-disclosure agreement. Reynolds took the fall. It's done. But if Chen starts asking questions, Chen won't. Blackwell sounded certain, confident. She knows what's at stake, the hospital's reputation, research funding, her own career. She made her choice 3 years ago. She's not going to suddenly grow a conscience. Still, the family settled. They got their money. They moved on. Everyone moved on except Reynolds, and frankly, who cares what he thinks? He's a janitor. Laughter. Bitter. Cold. You really don't like him, do you? I don't think about him at all, Blackwell said. He's irrelevant. Footsteps. Moving away down the hallway. Michael stayed frozen against the wall, heart pounding, hands shaking again. So that was it. Confirmation of what he'd suspected all along. Emma Hartley, 28 years old, car accident, massive internal bleeding, had died because of equipment failure. The hospital defibrillator had been malfunctioning. The backup equipment had been delayed because of a supply chain issue nobody wanted to admit. Michael had done everything right, followed every protocol, worked for 47 minutes straight trying to save her. And when she died, the hospital had needed someone to blame, someone to protect the institution, someone expendable. They'd chosen him. And Dr. Sarah Chen, his mentor, his teacher, the person who'd told him he had a gift, had known. She'd seen the evidence. She'd stayed silent. Michael's hands curled into fists. He wanted to scream, wanted to storm into that hallway and confront Blackwell, wanted to demand justice, demand acknowledgement, demand someone to admit the truth. But what good would it do? He had no evidence, no power, no platform. No one who would believe him over a medical director with 25 years of institutional credibility. He had a mop and a son who still believed in him. That was all. Michael pushed off the wall, went back to work. 1:30 p.m. VIP reception starting in the main hall. Michael had been assigned floor duty during the event. Stay nearby, clean up spills immediately, empty trash discreetly. Be invisible but ready. The hall had been transformed since morning. White tablecloths on round tables, crystal glasses, cloth napkins folded into shapes, swans, maybe, or flowers. Centerpieces with lilies and roses, a string quartet playing in the corner, waiters in black vests and bow ties carrying silver trays of hors d'oeuvres, champagne, lobster bisque shooters in tiny cups. Shrimp cocktail arranged on ice sculptures, bacon-wrapped scallops, puff pastry with something that looked like caviar. The kind of food Michael couldn't afford even if he saved for a month. The kind of food he used to eat at hospital fundraisers when he was Dr. Reynolds, when pharmaceutical reps would comp his registration to conferences like this, when he belonged. Now he was on the other side, cleaning up after the people who belonged. Guests filtered in starting at 1:45, 200 of them, according to the list. CEOs of pharmaceutical companies, department heads from major hospitals, medical school deans, government health officials, people who made decisions that affected millions of lives and millions of dollars. Natasha Winters arrived at 1:50. Michael recognized her from the program. Winters Pharmaceuticals, founder and CEO. Net worth somewhere north of $3 billion, according to the Forbes article he'd skimmed while waiting for the bus last week. Late 40s. Sharp eyes. Tailored suit. Black. Perfectly fitted. Heels that added 3 inches to her 5'6" frame. Confident walk. The kind that came from knowing you owned the room. She sat at table 7, dead center. Place of honor. The table was a who's who of pharmaceutical power. 3 other CEOs. A former FDA commissioner, Dr. Sarah Chen. Michael kept to the edges, pushed his cart, picked up discarded napkins from the registration table, emptied the trash bins outside the bathrooms, stayed invisible. At 2:15, the speeches started. Welcoming remarks from the conference chair. Thank yous to sponsors. Winters Pharmaceuticals got a special mention for their platinum-level donation. Polite applause. Champagne glasses raised in toast. Michael was near the kitchen doors, wiping down a service table that waiters used for staging trays. He had a clear view of the room, but nobody had a clear view of him. Perfect position for a janitor. That's when he noticed something. Table 7. Natasha Winters. She'd just taken a bite of an appetizer. Shrimp, looked like. Poached, arranged on a small piece of toast with some kind of sauce. She chewed, swallowed, reached for her champagne glass, then paused. Her hand went to her throat, just for a second. A small gesture. Most people wouldn't have noticed. Michael noticed. She coughed. Once. Quiet. Covered her mouth with her napkin. The woman next to her, one of the other CEOs, asked something. Winters shook her head, smiled, waved it off, but her other hand stayed at her throat. Michael moved closer. Not obvious, not rushing, just closer. Angled his cart so he had a better view. Winters coughed again, harder this time. Her champagne glass wobbled in her hand. The CEO next to her looked concerned now, putting a hand on Winters' shoulder. "Are you all right?" Winters tried to answer. Couldn't. Just shook her head. Michael's eyes narrowed. He was watching her the way he used to watch patients in the ER, not just looking. Observing. Diagnosing. Her face was flushing. Red spreading across her cheeks, down her neck. Her hand was still at her throat, fingers pressed against the skin. Then he saw it. Hives. Small at first, but spreading. Raised welts appearing along her collarbone, creeping up toward her jaw. Her breathing changed. Shallow. Rapid. Wrong. Michael's brain went into ER mode. Automatic. Like a switch flipping. Assessment. Female. Late 40s. Acute distress. Presentation. Facial flushing. Urticaria. Respiratory difficulty. Recent ingestion of food. Shrimp. Likely allergen. Differential diagnosis. Anaphylaxis. Severe, rapid onset. Protocol. Epinephrine. Immediate. No delay. Time to unconsciousness. 2 to 3 minutes from symptom onset. Time to death without intervention. 5 to 8 minutes. Current elapsed time since first symptoms. Approximately 90 seconds. Window for intervention. Closing fast. Winters stood up. Tried to. Her legs gave out. She'd stumbled. The woman next to her caught her, kept her from falling completely. "Ms. Winters? Ms. Winters, can you hear me?" The music stopped. The quartet noticed something was wrong. Conversations at nearby tables cut off. People turned to look. Winters tried to speak. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Her lips, they were swelling. Visible now even from 15 feet away. Angioedema. Airway compromise imminent. Someone at the table stood up. "Is there a doctor? Someone call 911. Multiple people pulled out phones, started dialing. Michael looked around the room. 200 doctors, medical professionals, people with licenses and credentials and authority. And none of them had moved yet. They were still processing, still reacting, still in civilian mode because this was a social event, not an emergency room. Michael looked across the room. Through the glass doors of the childcare area, he could see Ethan, playing with blocks, building a tower, oblivious to what was happening 30 feet away. He looked back at Natasha Winters. She was collapsing now, really collapsing. The woman trying to hold her up couldn't anymore. Winters slumped into her chair, head falling back, eyes rolling. Michael had two choices. Stay invisible. Let the doctors handle it. Wait for paramedics. Protect himself. Protect his job. Keep his head down the way he'd been doing for 3 years. Go home to Ethan tonight and tell him everything was fine and they were okay and nothing had changed. Or run. Run and expose himself. Run and practice medicine without a license. Run and risk arrest, prosecution, losing the one job that kept them fed and housed. Run and prove to Blackwell and everyone else that he couldn't stay in his place, that he was reckless, that he deserved everything that had happened to him. Run, and maybe, Save someone's life. Ethan's voice in his head. When will you be a doctor again, Dad? Michael's feet made the choice before his brain caught up. He dropped his rag. The cart stayed where it was, and he ran. Full sprint. Across the polished floor, dress shoes slipping slightly. He wasn't wearing the non-slip sneakers the other janitors wore. People scattered. Chairs scraped. Someone shouted, "What is he?" Michael reached table 7 in 4 seconds, pushed past the woman trying to help, dropped to his knees next to Winters' chair. "What are you doing?" someone demanded. Male voice, authoritative. "Who? Move," Michael said. Not loud, but firm. The voice he used to use in the ER when there was no time for discussion. The person, a doctor by his credentials badge, moved. Michael checked Winters' pulse. Carotid artery, 2 fingers, firm pressure. Pulse present. Weak, fast, thready. Not good but not gone. Airway check. He tilted her head back slightly, looked at her throat. Swelling visible. Severe. Her lips were pale blue at the edges. Cyanosis. Oxygen deprivation. Breathing. Shallow. Labored. Stridor. High-pitched sound on inhalation. Airway closing. Time to complete airway obstruction. 1 minute, maybe less. Needed. Epinephrine. Now. People with severe allergies carried EpiPens. Auto-injectors. Required for anyone with a history of anaphylaxis. Winters was a billionaire CEO who ate at fancy events constantly. If she had a shellfish allergy, she'd know. She'd be prepared. Her purse. Michael looked up, scanned the table. There, black leather clutch, expensive looking, sitting on the table near her empty seat. He grabbed it, opened it, dumped the contents onto the white tablecloth. Wallet. Phone. Latest iPhone. Lipstick. Compact mirror. Business cards. Breath mints. Keys. And there. Orange plastic case, recognizable immediately. EpiPen. Michael grabbed it, twisted off the blue safety cap. His hands were steady. Completely steady. Muscle memory. Thousands of emergency procedures. This was just one more. "What the hell are you doing?" A different voice now, closer, angry. Michael didn't answer. He pulled up the hem of Winters' skirt. Just enough. Outer thigh. Vastus lateralis muscle. Optimal injection site for epinephrine auto-injector. Large muscle, good blood flow, minimal risk of complications. He positioned the orange tip against her thigh. Over the fabric of her stockings, didn't matter. The needle would pierce through. "Someone stop him!" the voice shouted. "He's not a—" Michael pressed. Firm, straight down. 3 seconds. Click. The spring-loaded needle deployed, drove through the stocking, through skin, into muscle. Epinephrine released. 0.3 milligrams, standard adult dose. Michael held it in place, counted silently. 1, 2, 3. Released. Pulled the auto-injector away. The needle retracted automatically. He dropped it on the table. Checked Winters' pulse again. Still weak. Still fast. Waited. 10 seconds. 15. Her breathing should improve. Should. Epinephrine worked fast. Within 30 to 60 seconds, bronchodilation should begin. Blood pressure should stabilize. 20 seconds. 25. Her breathing wasn't improving. It was stopping. Michael checked again. No chest movement, no airflow. Complete airway obstruction. The swelling had progressed too far. The epinephrine would help, but not fast enough. Cardiac arrest imminent. Needed CPR, rescue breathing. Maintain oxygenation until the epinephrine reversed the swelling enough to restore spontaneous respiration. Michael tilted her head back. Chin lift. Standard airway positioning. Looked, listened, felt. No breathing. No chest rise. He pinched her nose, sealed his mouth over hers. 2 rescue breaths. Watching her chest rise with each one. Air going in. Good seal. The room exploded in noise. Oh my God, What is he doing? Is he kissing her? Someone call security. Get him away from her. Michael ignored it all, placed his hands on Winters' chest, center of the sternum, one hand over the other, arms straight, shoulders over hands, locked elbows, started compressions, 30. Hard. Fast. At least 2 inches deep, 100 to 120 compressions per minute. He counted silently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Hands grabbed his shoulders, tried to pull him away. Sir, you need to step back. Michael shrugged them off, didn't stop, kept counting. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. More hands. Security guards. 2 of them. Bigger than him. Stronger. Sir, step away from her now. Michael reached 30. Stopped compressions. Tilted Winters' head. 2 more rescue breaths. Checked for pulse. Still there. Weak, but there. The guards grabbed him, 1 on each arm, pulling. She's in cardiac arrest, Michael said. Calm. Factual. If you pull me away, she dies. You're not authorized to. I don't care about authorization. She needs CPR. We have paramedics coming. They're not here yet. I am. One of the guards looked uncertain. The other one tightened his grip. Sir, I'm going to have to insist. Touch me again, and her death is on you. Michael looked him in the eye. You want that responsibility? The guard hesitated. Dr. Richard Blackwell pushed through the crowd. His face was red, furious, veins standing out on his forehead. Reynolds! His voice cut through the chaos. What the hell do you think you're doing? Michael didn't look up, started another round of compressions, counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're not a doctor anymore. You have no right! 9, 10, 11, 12. Step away from her this instant. 15, 16, 17. I said step away. 23 to 24. 25. Blackwell reached for him. The guards held him back. Dr. Blackwell, sir, we need to. He's practicing medicine without a license. This is assault. Arrest him. Michael reached 30. Stopped. 2 rescue breaths. Checked pulse again. Stronger. Definitely stronger. The epinephrine was working. Cardiovascular system responding. Checked breathing. Chest movement. Slight. She was starting to breathe on her own. Shallow, but there. The hives on her face, starting to fade. Swelling in her lips, decreasing. She was coming back. Michael kept his fingers on her pulse. Steady now. Strong enough. He looked up at the crowd for the first time. 200 faces staring at him. Silent. Shocked. Horrified. Confused. Sirens outside. Getting louder. The main doors burst open. Paramedics. 2 of them. A man and a woman. Carrying equipment. Moving fast. They pushed through the crowd. Reached the table. The male paramedic dropped his kit. What have we got? Michael moved back. Let them take over. Female, late 40s. Anaphylaxis, severe. Likely seafood allergy. Administered epinephrine via auto-injector. He pointed at the used EpiPen on the table. Approximately 2 minutes ago. Patient went into respiratory arrest. Performed CPR, 30 compressions, 2 breaths per cycle. Spontaneous respiration returning as of 10 seconds ago. Pulse is strong and regular. The paramedic looked at him. You a doctor? Michael didn't answer. The paramedic attached a pulse oximeter to Winters' finger, checked the reading. O2 sat is 89%. Rising. He looked at his partner. Let's get her on oxygen and load her up. They worked quickly. Oxygen mask, IV line, blood pressure cuff. Lifted Winters onto a stretcher. Who administered the EpiPen? The female paramedic asked. I did, Michael said. Timing? Approximately 2.5 to 3 minutes after initial symptom presentation. She nodded, made a note on her tablet. Good call. Another minute and she'd have been in full arrest. The male paramedic looked at Michael again. Seriously, are you a doctor? That was textbook. Before Michael could respond, Blackwell stepped forward. He's a janitor, and he just committed assault. The paramedic frowned. Assault? He saved her life. He has no medical license, no authority to perform medical procedures. What he did was illegal. What he did, the female paramedic said flatly, was keep this woman alive long enough for us to get here. She looked at Blackwell. You're a doctor, right? Were you going to help? Blackwell's face went white, then red. That's not... Because from where I'm standing, this guy, janitor or not, did more for this patient than anyone else in this room. She looked around. 200 doctors, and nobody moved. Interesting. They wheeled Winters toward the door. The crowd parted. Michael stood up. The security guards immediately grabbed his arms again. Sir, you need to come with us, one of them said. Blackwell pointed at Michael. I want him arrested. Practicing medicine without a license. Assault. Battery. Whatever you can charge him with. The room was silent. All eyes on Michael. Judgment. Shock. Some faces angry, some confused. A few, very few, looked almost impressed. And then a voice cut through the silence. Calm, clear, authoritative. Let him go. Dr. Sarah Chen stood up from table 7. She stepped forward, moving through the crowd until she was standing between Michael and Blackwell. Sarah, Blackwell said warily, don't... He did everything right, Richard. He's not licensed. I don't care. Chen's voice was steel. He just saved Natasha Winters' life using textbook emergency protocol, epinephrine administration, airway management, CPR. All of it correct. All of it necessary. Blackwell's jaw tightened. That doesn't change the fact that, and 3 years ago, Chen continued, her voice rising, Dr. Michael Reynolds saved Emma Hartley's life for as long as it was medically possible to do so. The crowd murmured. Gasps. Whispers. Chen turned to face them. I was at St. Catherine's Hospital when Emma Hartley died. I reviewed the case as part of the credentialing board investigation. Dr. Reynolds, she gestured to Michael, followed every protocol, did everything by the book. The patient died because a defibrillator malfunctioned. A defibrillator the hospital knew had been having issues for weeks. More murmurs. Louder now. Dr. Chen, you need to stop talking, Blackwell said quietly, dangerously. No, Richard. I needed to start talking 3 years ago. She pulled her phone from her pocket, tapped the screen. I have the maintenance logs, the original ones. Before IT accidentally wiped them, I kept copies. Blackwell's face went pale. You can't. I can. And I will. She looked at Michael. Their eyes met. I should have done this years ago. I'm sorry. Michael couldn't speak. His throat was too tight. Chen turned back to the crowd. Dr. Michael Reynolds was one of the best emergency physicians I ever trained. He saved lives for 12 years. He saved Natasha Winters today. And yes, he did it without a license that should never have been revoked in the first place. Someone started clapping. Slow at first, Dr. Amy Porter, the young resident from this morning. She was standing near the back of the crowd. Another person joined. Then another. Not everyone. But enough. Chen turned to Blackwell. You're done, Richard. Blackwell looked around, seeing his support crumbling, his influence evaporating. He turned and walked toward the door, fast, like a man fleeing a crime scene. The security guards released Michael's arms. Chen stepped closer, spoke quietly. I have evidence, original maintenance records, witness statements from nurses who were there, equipment failure reports, everything the hospital buried. She pulled a business card from her pocket, pressed it into Michael's hand. Call me tomorrow. We're going to fix this. Michael looked at the card. Embossed lettering. Dr. Sarah Chen, Chief Medical Officer, Winters Pharmaceuticals. Why now? He asked. Because I watched you save a woman's life with your bare hands and a borrowed EpiPen. And I realized I've been a coward for 3 years." She paused. "I'm sorry, Michael. Truly." The paramedics were loading Winters into the ambulance. Chen touched Michael's shoulder once, then walked away to follow them. Michael stood alone in the center of the room, 200 doctors watching him, some with respect, some with suspicion, some with something like shame. And in the background, through the glass doors, Ethan pressed his face against the window. He'd seen something, didn't know what, but he was waving. Michael waved back. His hands were shaking again, but this time not from rage or fear, from something else entirely. The next 24 hours were a blur. Security let him go. Patterson fired him anyway. Unauthorized actions during work hours. Michael packed his locker, went home, tried to explain to Ethan why Dad wasn't going to work tomorrow. "But you helped someone," Ethan said. "That's good. It's complicated. Grown-up stuff again?" "Yeah, grown-up stuff." That night, Michael's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. "Mr. Reynolds, this is Catherine Brennan, legal counsel for Natasha Winters. Ms. Winters asked me to call. She'd like to meet with you." 2 days later, Memorial Regional Hospital, private room. Natasha Winters was sitting up in bed. No oxygen mask anymore. Just a nasal cannula. Color back in her face. Very much alive. A nurse showed Michael in. He was wearing the only dress shirt he owned, bought from Target 3 years ago, already getting thin at the elbows. "Mr. Reynolds," Natasha said. Her voice was rough but strong. "Sit. Please." Michael sat in the chair next to her bed. "They tell me I was dead," she said. "Or close enough. They say I have you to thank for being alive. I just don't." She held up a hand. "Don't minimize it. You saved my life, at great personal cost." She gestured to a folder on the bedside table. "I've read your case file, all of it. Emma Hartley, the investigation, the hearing, the cover-up. I have resources, Dr. Reynolds. When someone saves my life, I make it my business to understand who they are." She opened the folder. Equipment failure, maintenance negligence, hospital administration sacrificing a doctor to protect themselves from liability. She looked up. "It's obscene." Michael didn't know what to say. "I have lawyers," Natasha continued. "Very expensive lawyers. Very good ones. They've already filed an appeal with the medical board. Dr. Chen provided evidence, maintenance logs, original incident reports, witness affidavits from nurses who were in the room that night. I don't know how to. You don't have to do anything. I'm doing it." She paused. "You lost your career because you tried to save someone's life. You lost your job because you saved mine. That's not justice. That's not even close. Ms. Winters, I appreciate this, but the board won't. The board will listen to a billion-dollar pharmaceutical company threatening to pull research funding from every hospital in the state if they don't conduct a fair review." She smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who knew exactly how much power they had. "Trust me. They'll listen." Michael's chest felt tight. "I don't deserve—" "Stop." Her voice was firm. "You deserve what was taken from you. You deserve to practice medicine. You deserve to be called doctor again." She paused. "Your son deserves to see his father doing what he was meant to do." Michael's eyes burned. He blinked hard. "There's something else," Natasha said. She pulled out another document. "Winters Pharmaceuticals is creating a new position. Medical Director for Emergency Response Protocols. It's yours if you want it. Pending license reinstatement, obviously. What? Salary is $200,000. Full benefits. Sign-on bonus to cover your immediate financial needs. Start date flexible." She looked at him. "You'd be developing protocols for emergency drug administration. training programs for first responders. Exactly what you're good at. Michael couldn't speak. 200,000. He made 28,000 as a janitor. Think about it, Natasha said. Take your time. But know this, you saved my life. Let me help save yours. 3 days later, Michael's phone rang again. Sarah Chen. Michael, the medical board hearing is scheduled. 2 weeks. I'll be there to testify. So will 3 nurses from the Hartley case. And Natasha's legal team has filed briefs. She paused. This is happening. Dr. Chen. Sarah, please. Sarah, why are you doing this? Long silence. Then, because I was there that night, I saw you work on Emma Hartley for 47 minutes. I saw you try everything. And I saw the defibrillator fail. I knew it wasn't your fault. Her voice cracked slightly. And I said nothing. I let politics and funding and fear dictate my choices. I've had to live with that for 3 years. I can't anymore. Thank you, Michael said quietly. Don't thank me. I should have done this years ago. 6 months later. Medical board hearing. 3rd floor conference room. State medical building. Michael sat at a table. Sarah Chen beside him. Natasha's legal team. 3 lawyers in expensive suits. A stack of evidence 6 inches thick. The board reviewed everything. Maintenance logs showing repeated defibrillator failures. Incident reports documenting equipment issues weeks before Emma Hartley's death. Affidavits from nurses describing Michael's desperate attempts to save her. Expert testimony from cardiologists explaining that no physician could have done more with malfunctioning equipment. The hospital's representative, not Blackwell, he'd resigned under pressure, admitted to errors in the investigation process. The board deliberated for 3 hours. The decision: license reinstated, full privileges restored. Official acknowledgement that Dr. Michael Reynolds had acted appropriately given the circumstances. Recommendation that St. Catherine's Hospital review its credentialing and equipment maintenance procedures. Michael walked out of that building with Sarah Chen and Natasha's lawyers. They were congratulating him, talking about next steps. He could barely hear them. His ears were ringing. He called Ethan. Miss Clara put him on the phone. Dad? Hey, buddy. Did it happen? Are you a doctor again? Yeah, I'm a doctor again. Ethan screamed with joy. Michael heard Miss Clara laughing in the background. I knew it, Ethan said. I knew you'd be a doctor again. When can you come get me? I want to tell everyone. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Michael hung up, stood on the steps of the state medical building. The sun was out. It was a Tuesday. October. 3 years and 19 days since he'd lost his license. He pulled the stethoscope out of his bag. The blue Litman. Still there. Still waiting. He put it around his neck. It felt right. First day. Winters Pharmaceuticals. Medical Director for Emergency Response Protocols. Corner office with a window. Desk. Computer. Nameplate that said Dr. Michael Reynolds, MD. White coat hanging on a coat rack. His name embroidered on the pocket. Ethan was there. Special permission from Natasha. Bring your son to work day. He'd told his entire kindergarten class that his dad was a doctor now. Brought them all on a field trip to see. 8 6-year-olds running around a pharmaceutical company. Security wasn't thrilled. Natasha thought it was hilarious. That's my dad, Ethan told his classmates, pointing at Michael in his white coat. He saves people. One of the kids asked, like a superhero? Better, Ethan said with absolute certainty. Like a doctor. Michael knelt down, hugged his son. I'm proud of you, Dad, Ethan whispered. I'm proud of you too, buddy. Why? I didn't do anything. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That's everything. 1 year later. Michael wasn't at Winters anymore. The job had been good. Great, even. But after 6 months, he'd realized something. He missed patient care. Missed the ER. Missed the chaos and the urgency and the feeling of making a difference one person at a time. Natasha had understood. Go, she'd said. That's where you belong. He'd taken a position at City Memorial Hospital, attending physician in the emergency department, teaching residents, mentoring medical students, training the next generation. On his office wall, framed, the stethoscope, the blue Littman. Ethan had insisted they frame it. "So we never forget," Ethan had said. Michael never did. Some mornings he'd arrive early, stand in the ER, watch the organized chaos, doctors moving between beds, nurses starting IVs, monitors beeping, the smell of antiseptic, the sound of squeaky wheels on gurneys. And he'd think about Natasha Winters at table 7, about 90 seconds that changed 2 lives, about a 6-year-old's question finally having an answer, about the janitor who remembered what it meant to be a doctor. The janitor mopping the floor at the Metropolitan Medical Summit wasn't supposed to know what anaphylaxis looked like. But Michael Reynolds had never stopped being a doctor. He just stopped believing he deserved to be one. It took 90 seconds, a woman's life, and a 6-year-old's faith to remind him. Some things you don't lose. They're just waiting for you to remember. And when you remember, when you choose to be who you really are, even when the cost is everything, that's when you stop surviving and start living. That's when you save yourself.